Hello, everyone. I am going to just briefly discuss a potential severe weather event for Wednesday. I'm going to be detailing Wednesday's potential event. Tuesday seems to be the better day for severe weather. However, Wednesday just focuses in more on my areas I like to forecast. So I want to focus on that. Um, First. I'm gonna look at the Euro and the NAM model. The GFS has been um, sort of progressive, too fast with the system, but we may look at that as well, just to see what it, what it's saying. Let me switch. Okay, so this right here is the Euro model, and I want to just show first, real quick. I want to backtrack here. I want to show what we're looking at here. And I am going to start with the probably best to show this. So this here can help us indicate troughs, ridges, low pressures. We can uh, look at the increased winds at the 500 millibar level. Um, these winds can bring and it can bring additional energy and bring the lift needed for precipitation just in general, but for severe weather as well. So today, so this is Sunday um, morning. So this morning, this is 12 o'clock. So let's move on here. This is around 6 p.m. So let's look at two things here. This is this evening. There we go. This is this evening. So let's look at this. We have a very weak low, um, some sort of short wave here, low pressure here, and then we have um, our main trough here in California. But this low here, and I'm going to try to just explain this very briefly. This low, it's going to move off this way, and it's going to by the time it reaches this general vicinity, it's going to weaken very rapidly. Essentially, and it essentially will just be a very weak shortwave just traveling toward the Bahamas. So this this little weak low pressure, it's bringing in this Gulf of Mexico moisture up into the Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas regions. It's gonna bring all this moisture up into this region here. And the thing is, where this low pressure is where this low pressure is very weak as it already, and it's going to just continue to weaken as it moves off. It's not going to push this cold air behind it, and without that cold air pushing behind that low pressure, this warm, moist air that we were talking about is going to sit here. Well, this trough right here, this low pressure here, is going to move off in this direction. Well, it's going to interact with this warm, moist air already in place, and it's going to just fuel it even more. But this is going to play and roll into Wednesday because That's and you'll see here. Let's continue on here. This is this evening. This is Monday morning, 6 a.m. You can see that low. This is Monday, 12 p.m. at noon. And you can see this trough in the west part of our country really starting to deepen, really starting to strengthen very rapidly. We're getting winds on the Euro model of 110 knots or higher. Very, very strong winds. This just continues to move on to the plains, and as it progresses, continues to hold that strength of around 110 knots. And this is Wednesday, or excuse me, this is Tuesday evening around 6 p.m., 5, 6 p.m. So um, lots of lots of turning in the atmosphere here. We see some almost due westerly winds, southern Louisiana, and then almost due southerly winds near Arkansas. So almost a 90-degree difference of winds compared to northern Arkansas, southern Louisiana. So there's a lot of turning in the winds in the atmosphere. So that's going to lead to lots of a potential tornado threat across Mississippi, Louisiana. Um, Mainly those two. That could also lead into Arkansas, Tennessee. But again, that's for Tuesday. But this same system is going to continue to move forward here. So the time frame I'm going to look at Wednesday, I think as of now, and this could change. Um, and this is for um, the Grand Strand area, so the Carolinas area. So I'm focusing on there right now, and I will focus on the West Virginia area also, and probably in a separate video closer to the event. But right now, a more widespread, significant event possible in the Carolinas. So I'm focusing um, on those two states. I don't know if I'd mentioned that in the beginning, but if I hadn't, I'm focusing on Myrtle Beach area, just in general the Carolinas. So this is Wednesday around 12 o'clock, around noon. We're going to be looking around between noon and 2 to 3 p.m., I think, Wednesday. This is where I think prime time will be for any sort of severe weather. Well, we have our negative tilted trough. Oh shoot. So we have our negatively tilted trough. And what that means is, if I can draw it right, that's not, it's probably like more like that. So it's oriented more southeast or northwest, and what that allows more tilt, more turning in the atmosphere, allows more warm, moist air to be advected into the low pressure. And it can also enhance lift, which is very important for severe weather events. So negatively tilted troughs like this, oriented southeast to northwest, like we have now with the Euro showing, very important. But if we focus on, um, you know, let's focus on this sort of region right here. I I think this is going to be the prime area for severe weather Wednesday. As of now, this could change, and very well probably will change. But let me move that down a little bit. A stupid ad in the way, but we can see our winds around 80 to 90 knots, and this is going to be where our exit region is. In an exit region of a trough, which is an exit region of the trough. is going to be on this northern part here. Um, and there's usually two sides. So we have, oh wow, let me erase that. So we have our like we have our look our enhanced we have our enhanced jet streak in this region here, very poorly drawn. But usually this northern part of our trough injection here, where our enhanced jet streak is. So this northern part here, where our exit region is, where the winds are exiting the trough, that's where we'll see a lot of this lift in the atmosphere, and that's very typical in setups like this. But when we have the winds 80 to 90 knots or higher, that's very high, and that's going to cause a lot of violent emotion in our atmosphere. And whether there's enough tilt or not, that's kind of too far to really detail right now. It's too far to really detail if there's going to be enough rotation in the surface and in the mid atmosphere. There's a lot of uncertainties, but what right now what this tells me is that a linear threat is very well possible. And I will go into that here in a second. But first, um, I want to look at dew points. I want to look at the dew points real quick. What are we looking at moisture wise? And this is also the Euro model here. What are we looking at moisture wise? Well, let's switch over here. This is by 12 p.m. Wednesday. We see a good plume of 60-degree or higher dew points. In severe weather events, you need your dew points at the very least in the upper 50s, but really you want them in the 60s, lower 60s or higher. You need your dew points lower 60s or higher. Some cases upper 50s if there's enough, if it's a very heavily kinematic or very strong shear event. Okay, then you can maybe go to the upper 50s, but you want lower 60s in a severe weather event. And we can see even some mid 60s, some 64 Marion County. But so we can see those low 60s in the central North Carolina area and then central and eastern South Carolina area. So I think there will be plenty enough moisture um, in that sense to work with. Now, one issue I think we'll run into, excuse me, sorry, is this is our most unstable cape. Um, One issue I think we'll run into is instability. I don't think we're going to have a lot of instability to work with. In fact, I don't think we're going to have much. And this is because of the just timing of the storm. These storms are going to hit 12 to 2 p.m. If it was later in the day, 3 to 5 p.m., that would give us a few more hours of potential sunlight. And maybe we could have seen our cape approach 1,000 joules. And if that were the case, I think we'd have a more enhanced a little bit higher risk for maybe a tornadic event. Um, Not necessarily that would be the main risk, but definitely a more increased risk. But with the low instability, uh, we'll see. But however, our kinematics are very favorable. I think there will be enough turning in the air and with vertically up in our atmosphere to promote that turning and tilt that we need for for tornadic events. But let's look at the NAM real quick. I'm just gonna go over the NAM just real quick. We can see that we can see that low pressure over Texas, and that's gonna remember that's gonna bring in that moist air, and it's gonna and where it's already so weak, it's not gonna be able to kick that cold dry air from the Rockies. Isn't gonna be able to kick that warm moist air back out. So a lot of this warm air, moist air, is gonna stay in place, allowing for this trough and this low pressure in California to move into the area and allow this warm, moist air to evect into the low pressure. And we can see the result of that when it hits the plains of rapidly intensifying. And the NAM is also showing the same around the same amount of wind speeds. This is Wednesday around noon. Around 70 knots, a little slower, not as faster or aggressive as the Euro, but still 70 knots, pretty good. That's definitely good for severe weather events. And um, let's look at our potential radar here, and I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to show a sounding here, and I'm going to explain why I think we might see a linear event. Exit that out. Okay, so this is Wednesday, 12 p.m. We can see, of course, when the models aren't as high res, we're not as we're still pretty far out. We're not as close, but the models aren't going to be as high res. But we can generally just say there's going to be some precip in this sort of area around 12 p.m. Um, let's look at a sounding real quick, and I'm gonna do like around the Myrtle Beach Conway area, and let's discuss this. So this is what the NAM is showing at 12 p.m. Let's look at a few things. One thing I notice, um, first, let's look. We have our surface cape here. Why is this big? Do not know why. Fix this. Okay, we have our surface cape here. Just below 1,000. Just below 1,000. The NAM has more instability compared to the Euro. A few hundred more joules per kilogram of cape. Um, so our surface cape is around 1,000. Our ML mixed layer cape 700. Fairly low. Our 3 kilometer cape, and I'll point this out right here. Our 3 cape, um, 67. You kind of want around 100 or more for um, tornadic activity, for more enhanced tornadic activity in that case. But what is 3 cape? That is cape between the surface and 3 kilometers in the atmosphere. So, okay, let's look at our sounding. Well, we have 3 kilometers right here labeled. So our 3 cape is between this dash line here and our surface. So our 3 cape is everything in between the red solid line and the white dash line. So this is where our 3 cape sits. And this the higher the 3 cape helps with it can help with the tilt. It can help with the vorticity at the surface, and then closer up to our mid atmosphere. So very important for tornadic activity to have high 3 cape. 67 is not necessarily high, um, not necessarily very low, but it's not going to so it's not going to promote tornadic activity much. But one more thing I want to mention, this right here is our hodograph. This is a hodograph, and this just tells us the turning of the winds as we go higher in the atmosphere. So our one here is 1 kilometer up in the atmosphere, our 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers, and so on. So we have winds coming from the southwest. Then we have winds more out of the west southwest, 2 kilometers up. So we're having our winds kind of turn this way. They're turning clockwise as we go higher up. Now, when I'm talking about the turning of the atmosphere, this is what I mean. As we go up in the as we go up in the atmosphere, we want this turning, this clockwise turning. And this is how we see this. So we have our winds coming this way at one, and then our winds coming into to the other direction. So we can see that through that, and when we have the clockwise motion, that can help with um, having enough turning in the atmosphere. However, usually usually when you want highly tornadic events, when you look at these, the photographs are sometimes they're like this sometimes, and they're like a fish hook, called um, fish hook photographs sometimes. Um, when they're more sort of like this, sort of straight line like this, and you can kind of draw a line parallel. It's not, um, you can draw a line parallel from the 1 kilometer all the way down, and then from the 2 kilometer. And depending on remember, how perpendicular those two lines are, you can determine um, how likely quick spin ups are possible in a line segment of storms like we could possibly have Wednesday across the Carolinas. So not a whole lot of, it's not very perpendicular. It's more parallel, in my opinion, than anything. Um, However, I don't think ruling out a quick spin up, a quick tornado or two across the central South Carolina area, North Carolina area towards the coast. I don't think a quick tornado or two is out of the question right now. And depending on how models really develop here in the next day or two, that threat can be increased or decreased. So we'll have to watch it very closely. Um, as of now, I think this is more of a linear event, with quick spin ups along the um, along the main line. And I want to just look at this real quick. This is the National Weather Service. This is day 4, and you can see they have our central South Carolina or North Carolina areas under a 15% risk. And from what I've seen, I think this area, I think this area right here might see the best chance for maybe tornadic activity. I'm thinking possibly up here too, possibly. Kind of a question mark right now. Um, but really, all of this is a question mark for just tornadic activity. I think this is just more of a damaging wind threat for most of this area. Anyways, I don't think it's definitely going to be a chance for some tornadoes, but nothing nothing really worrying right now. I think everything appears to be minimal at this point, but we can see um we can see here that they're kind of uncertain on potential additional thunderstorm development on that main line in the afternoon once it crosses those mountains, the Blue Ridge Mountains. Um, they don't know how much that main line, how much how much this main line right here will strengthen as it moves along these mountains. So very interesting to watch. I'm going to be watching very closely. Probably a more shorter video next time. I was kind of just giving an overview about everything going on, but um, definitely something to look at. I think a linear event, damaging winds. How strong the winds, I don't know. Tornado potential, uncertain. A lot of things need to be figured out. So hopefully by uh, Tuesday evening, I can be making a video explaining the main threats and just having it more of a quicker video. I also will be making a video. I'll probably be mentioning West Virginia. Um, Interesting potential setup, maybe. I mean, we'll have to see how models handle it as well. Um, Through Ohio and even maybe I don't think Pennsylvania, but there's a chance if the sun can come out for a few hours Wednesday afternoon. Um, but until then, I will see you guys later.